Hi, my name is Lana Slutsky and I'm curator of exhibitions and collections here at the Museum of Russian Icons. Today, I'd like to formally open our first exhibit of 2021 titled Painted Poetry, Alexander Gassel, a Retrospective. So today I'm just going to tell you a little bit about the exhibit and about the process by which we came up with the idea for it. I met Alexander about a decade ago when I was teaching art history at MassArt. I was doing a course on the history of Byzantine art and architecture and decided that it would be very valuable for my students, most of whom were of course art and design majors, to see the studio of a working iconographer. And so I did a little bit of research and quickly discovered that Alexander's studio, which is only about 2 blocks away from the MassArt campus, was the ideal place for us to visit. And luckily for us, Alexander was very enthusiastic in welcoming our group to this space. So I remember it was a very cold winter day and we walked over from MassArt to the studio. And as we entered that space, I realized that my students had the unique opportunity to enter a very different time and place from which they were coming themselves. Because on the one hand, Alexander's studio is of course very much in 21st century Boston. But at the same time, as you enter that space, you begin to realize that the ideas and the themes and the types of works that he has covering floor to ceiling, every inch of space, are very much of a different world. And so that space is filled with paintings and icons, canvases and paints and all sorts of artistic materials, but also lots and lots of books, both exhibition catalogs and nonfiction and fiction books. They're everywhere. So it was this beautiful world that we entered, that Alexander allowed us to enter, and that my students benefited from, not only this first group, but also all of the subsequent groups that I was able to bring there. So it was a wonderful experience to work with him in that way. And then I lost touch with him, as I said, for about a decade. When I began this position just a few months ago, I was absolutely thrilled to discover that he is the longtime conservator at this museum. And so I met him in a different capacity, but he remembered me well and I remembered him well, and we immediately established a good working relationship. He told me so much about the type of work that he does here, about his conservation techniques, about a lot of the icons that are a part of our permanent collection. And almost immediately the idea of bringing his works to exhibit came into being. And so we had a series of meetings, and in those meetings we discussed a lot of things like the size of the gallery, the number of works that we could fit in here, the types of works that he wanted to exhibit, the types of works that I found to be most interesting. We worked through that, and in the course of one of those conversations, he mentioned that he also writes short stories. And I thought, well, why don't I take a look at them? Not for the purposes of the exhibit, but just out of interest. And as I read through them, I realized that his short stories, which are written in Russian and as of this date are not yet published, that they are filled with the same kind of poetic language that's reflected in his art. So his art is poetic in the sense that it's rhythmic, it's balanced, it's musical, and that's seen in color, in line, in shape, also in narrative. And so that same type of poeticism marks both. And that's where the idea for the exhibit really was born. So what I did is I took those short stories, I translated very short excerpts, so just a sentence or two each, and I paired them with the 6 big thematic sections that are represented here. So those 6 sections are, the first one being directly behind me. First one is village life, the second one is abstract art, the third one is religious art, fourth one is women and lovers, the fifth one is mythology and history, sixth one is life in the US. And so with every single one of those, we have a quote paired with it. So that's how the idea came about. And then the other interesting part that I wanted to tell you is about the installation of it, how we came up with the design. So there are really 2 ways that exhibits can be put together. One is the virtual way, using a fantastic software that we subscribe to at the museum. And the other way is the old-fashioned way, and that's by bringing works into the gallery space and arranging them to look the way that they will eventually look on the walls. So we went the old-fashioned way, and we spent one very long day dragging around about 50 works, moving them from wall to wall, adjusting the lights, arranging them, and then rearranging them, and then rearranging them again, until we came up with the exhibit that you see behind me. And that was a very interesting experience for me. And at the end of the day, I remember we looked around. So it was the team from the museum, and of course Alexander was here. And at the end of it, we looked around and we said, that's it, we're done, we have our show. That's how the exhibit came together. The virtual platform that you are hopefully enjoying right now is a brand new addition, and so this is our first virtual exhibit that we have, and I very much hope that you are enjoying the ability to view the exhibit from the comfort of your home. So with that in mind, though, I should say that we are reopening our doors on March 5th. So if you're in the area, please stop by and please take a look at the show in person. Thank you so much for your attention and for visiting our website, for visiting and supporting our museum. Thank you.